Hello, and welcome to the Practice Marketing Power Hour, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today's focus, we're going to be talking to David Lott here, physical therapist of Lott Physical Therapy in Texas, and we're going to be talking about how you can get more reviews and not to be shy or have your staff be shy so they can ask for more reviews. So David is a physical therapist, and he's also the co-founder of Lott Physical Therapy, which he founded in 2001. So that's fantastic tenure there. Well done, David, on that. And I think David is a master at building trust and building his online presence. He has over 800 online reviews that he's gotten over the years, and he really invests in portraying the patient experience at his clinic. So if you get a chance, check out his website at Lott. That's LOTT, PT.com. So it's a fantastic job with that. So welcome, David. Great to have you on the podcast with us.
Thanks, Neil. I appreciate you inviting me.
You're welcome. And so let's talk about this. So you have a lot of online reviews. So how many Google reviews do you have in total between your two clinics?
I'm looking at I think 650 or somewhere in that range.
Amazing. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, and also quite a few hundred Facebook reviews too, right?
250-ish in the Facebook reviews.
Awesome. And man, that's definitely been probably a process to get that going. So looking forward to learning from you today and sharing with our audience here how you've been able to do that. But I always think that one of the things that patients are really looking for out there is they're looking for trusted experts. So we know that reviews are a great way for that social proof that people look for. What's the experience been like for someone else coming to your clinic? So David, in your opinion, why is it so important to get reviews?
Well, I think it's interesting that reviews have become especially Google reviews have become such a thing. I remember over the last 5 or 10 years, you see reviews and you see Yelp and Google, and you could appreciate that to some degree. And I guess the different age groups look at that differently. And I think initially I probably wasn't the person that would look at a review and give it a lot of merit. But I found myself evolving into if I make an Amazon purchase, or if I have a question about a restaurant, I'm going to look at the reviews, and I usually look at the negative ones, as what how many they have and if they're current. And it's interesting because I've had to research this a lot more to understand as I've taken over more marketing in my company of kind of making sure that we're on the right track as far as how we're doing this. But it's helped me appreciate the reviews a lot more and understand we really haven't, particularly something like physical therapy. I mean, no one really knows what we do. If you ask 10 people in the community what physical therapy is, you're going to they walk people down the hallway. They give massages that insurance pay for. It's crazy. So, I mean, and I don't know who we can blame that on besides anyone or ourselves. So I think that that's been the biggest challenge for me over the years, is figuring out how do I tell people what I do. And in the beginning, I thought, well, you tell them about your credentials. I remember arguing with the marketing consultants before about billboards, and well, they want to know our credentials, and I'm a OCS and that I'm a McKinsey. So no one cares about that stuff. So I realized they don't really care so much about, because they get that information. Everybody's, got the full page ads about the latest laser treatment, so there's so much stuff pushed out there. So I think it's a space that people have kind of begun to trust and say, hey, these are people like us. They've had a positive experience. That sounds decent. So I guess that really intrigued me more to go, I'm using this more. So I need to really make sure we're doing a good job about, how do we get Google reviews, or are Google reviews the best, platform to focus on? So I've had to ask a lot of questions. And so that's been helpful over the years. But I feel like in the most simplest terms, it's the patient's first impression of our business. I've been doing this for over almost 25 years. And you can work really, really hard for a long time and do a great job. You think you're doing a great job, but it really doesn't matter what we think about what we do. It's a matter of what the consumer thinks. So I think from that standpoint, it helps build trust. It establishes relevance when people look and say, oh, you have 600, 800, whatever reviews, you must be legit. Maybe there's something going on there that's positive. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really made a good point there in that people don't really trust where they're going anymore, right? There's a lot of distrust in the world today, and there's a lot of marketing messages out there. And so what people really look for is what have other people said about the experience at your practice, right, or your business. And so I think that's why reviews have just gotten so popular over the years, is that people will really look for the trust factor. What's the experience been like for others?
I think it's helpful too that, when I read the reviews we get back, I mean, the ones that are more detailed really help me understand better, like what the consumer sees value in, where are we doing good? And then, if you do get a review that's not a shining review, you understand more about what frustrations are, and I'll talk a little bit about NPS scores and stuff like that. Kind of that's our front line sometimes, and that helps us give some insight as to areas of our practice that we need to work better. And usually it's the areas you think the least about. You think patients are really focused on this one specific, their treatment and then that period of time that they're spending with the clinician, but you might find out that the most frustrated patients had a negative experience in the office waiting room, or they didn't, their insurance verification wasn't explained well. So, I mean, this really helps us kind of like find out what we might be missing to exceed expectations with the patient. So I think in that regard, the negative reviews can be really helpful, even though you hate to see them. You definitely want to learn from them.
That's really awesome to think about it that way, though, because I'm sure a lot of people just think about reviews from a marketing perspective, like how can I get more new patients, not necessarily looking at it, where are there areas in my practice that we can get better at. And I really love the way that you approach that and look at it. And so I'm kind of curious from that perspective too, like both negative, but then also the positive reviews. How does your team react when they see these things, or like how often do you share it with your team?
Well, we have what we like to try to do is and this is something in the last couple of years we've realized we've been fortunate enough to get a lot of good reviews just organically. It's just, I think just like every other PT clinic owner probably thinks they do a great job. I feel like we do a really consistent job, and we work hard at exceeding expectations and making sure that we give a good treatment. But I think it help me taking the time to really explain to my staff, both office and the clinicians, about why these are so important, and making it less about promoting our business, but more about helping people. Like how can we help? How can we help more people? We can't help them if they don't know what we do or how they're going to get better, or they don't see somebody else that's improved that has a similar condition. So I think taking that shift, which is probably 3 or 4 years ago, we might have had the Google review drive, and this clinic is winning, and it became like the purpose was lost. I feel like I didn't really explain what's the real reason we have Google reviews, or why is it important? And so that's been something we've done a better job at. I think doing that has really helped us then develop better systems on, one thing, for example, we have a dashboard that has Google reviews, and we play that in our lounge. We have in our employee lounges, we have a big screen TV that's got employees and cool stuff, and the Thanksgiving turkey drive, etc. But we'll have our metrics, which show the recent Google reviews and the comments. And I have strongly encouraged people to really thank those people more, because I think sometimes we get those reviews and we just kind of we read it, we feel good about ourselves for 5 seconds, and then we move on to the next. But taking that time to make sure that when that patient comes in next time, you thank them and say, Neil, man, I appreciate that review you left. I know that took some time. And that has really made a big change in, that. I mean, they've already given us a good Google review, but it helps our employees understand the value, and they feel like more of like it's a real thing that can really help us help more people. So I think it's the short answer would be helping understand the why behind why this is important, so that it doesn't have to be another task you have to remember to ask them about a Google review, but like they literally want to help people.
I think that's such a critical thing. That's probably the big why most practice owners struggle getting reviews is there's probably not the underlying why. Why are we doing this, right? What is the real purpose of this?
It's another task. It becomes another checkbox to, you got to check this off. And that's kind of what I found. It was like they really didn't. And that makes it more awkward asking for that review, when you really don't understand the point of this anyway, other than I'm trying to help lot physical therapy. Now, when you shift the focus, now it's not about that. It's about like, wow, that's incredible, Neil, that your back's doing so much better, man. Let's talk about that. And you know what? Tell you what, you got your phone on you? Pull that out real quick. And you could help so many other people that are having the same issue get better because they have the same story. They just don't know where to go. And we'll talk, later on about, questions that you can promote to get good Google reviews. But I think that's a good thing, is like, listen to that patient, let them explain their experience, and then guide them into understanding that this is not about promoting lot physical therapy at this point. This is about promoting, somebody else getting the relief that you're getting. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And the number one thing that I see a lot of practice owners just struggle with in terms of getting reviews is that they're probably the ones that are usually good at getting them, but getting the rest of the team to ask, whether it's the therapist, right, or front desk, right, that's where the challenge is, right? And it seems like you've done a really fantastic job of cultivating that purpose mentality in your team, and then giving them reminders, like with those metrics up on a screen, to reinforce, like, hey, this is a progress that we're making towards that. And so I really love the way that you've approached that philosophy, and really empowering the team more to get the reviews than just trying to rely on one or two A players to get those reviews for you.
Well, I try to help people. I help our PTs particularly, and our office people understand too that it's not natural. We're not at the point with physical therapy. It's not at the point where when you have back pain, you think, oh, I should go get physical therapy. Now, I feel like in our area, we've done a really good job, and we have a lot of repeat customers. So we're doing it better at that. But we can't have that impact until we actually see you walk in the door, because, you're still not going to know what we do. So helping them understand that that's so important, it becomes almost, they get excited about getting them now. And so it's not something I have to manage anymore, or really, count, hey, you need more Google reviews. And then it becomes this task that's like, oh, I got to get my notes done. I got to do this, and I got to do all that, and I got to get Google review. I think it's just shifting the kind of thinking behind it has helped a lot, and helped them understand it's our job as PTs to promote our practice, or our profession. And I remind them often about, doesn't it drive you nuts when you have a patient that you're seeing for their neck, and you're working on them, they're going, oh my God, my neck's incredible. But I got to finish up pretty early because I got to go see my chiropractor for my back. And you're like, well, we treat backs too, man. So I think pointing out that is not nothing against the chiropractors or anything. They've done a great job at marketing what they do, and they've actually defined what they do in a lot better way. I think we're so diverse in physical therapy. We do everything. So people don't, what the heck does physical therapy going to help with my back, or, my vertigo, or whatever. So we kind of help create that sense of urgency with our providers, like saying, people don't know how we can help them. And you've got to you've got to take that responsibility of really doing your job and helping promote physical therapy. And again, not just lot physical therapy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So moral of the story, I think, for our audience out there is, don't approach it as a task. Approach it as a mechanism for patient feedback, right? And then how can you empower your team with that? So David, let's talk here about, obviously Google reviews is super important, right? It's like the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but it's not always necessarily the right thing to just get Google reviews. So you want to be able to capture reviews from different platforms too. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of what you've done in your clinic?
And that's a good question, because it's something that I probably haven't really thought about in the past. I mean, just as I was mentioned to you before we started the recording, we talked a little bit about, as a clinic owner of 20 something years, it's just been the last year or two that I've actually started taking admin days and taking over a more active role in marketing. So I'm learning a lot of the stuff that a lot of it was instinctive for me. I don't think you just wake up, you don't go to PT school and own your own practice without having some skill sets that want to make you do things a little different. I mean, it's just a different breed of PT. You think differently, you see things. I'm always thinking of, how can we do this better? And, we need to get these different pillows, so there's always improvements in my mind. So it's really to reflect on that. I think I realized that, a lot of people some people don't have Google accounts, so I just did this. I guess it was yesterday. I had on our ID badge, we have a QR code. And when we hear a great response or I'm doing great, like I'll say, hey, you know what? You got your phone on you? Oh yeah. Take a picture of this QR code. It's going to take you to a Google review. And then I discuss with them kind of like how important it is for them to tell their story and say, how have you gotten better? What's happened and what's different? And then to get excited about that. But this guy, for example, was just couldn't wait to write, hey man, I'm doing so great. I can't believe I never would have thought physical therapy helped. He did the QR code and guess what? No Google account. So it made my brain go, oh crap. Okay, well, so let's do this. Let's go to our website. And it's good for me to do this because I train my staff to do this. But when I do this consistently, I learn how to improve this process better. So I took him to our website. He did a review there. So, that's just a good example of like, you're not going to capture everybody on Google review.
Yeah.
And I think it's good when they go to our website and they're exploring, they're going to see our website reviews, or Facebook reviews are so important too. So I think it's the diversity of your reviews will capture a lot of different audiences that aren't going to just be honed in on that one. Because we have a lot of, and I don't know, as somebody who's not a marketing expert, I'm sure someone would know the Gen Zers go here and the Gen Xers go here, so everybody kind of has their comfort zone as far as social media or whatever. So we want to figure out like, what's our target audience? Who are we trying to, help? And how do we reach them, and what platform is best? So I think that's probably why Google reviews only is it's good to have a little diversity there.
Yeah. So some great things to unpack there. First off, that's a genius idea to have the QR code on the name badge. I love that. That's fantastic. So that's a winner for everybody there if you're not doing that. But
well, I was kind of proud of myself, but when you realize,
it's awesome.
I thought, oh, I got this great idea. Like I think these QR codes now are a big deal. So hey, let's do this. And then of course it's just like anything else. When you start to dive into it, do a little research, you realize there's about 100, there's 1,000 people have already thought of it, but I've never seen it before. But that was one of the issues I realized. So you have a patient who's excited about their improvement. They're like, I just can't believe how much better I am. We miss that opportunity so many times because we have barriers. I'm trying to get this patient, I got to get this treatment in. I got to do this and this and this. And by the time I get them on the computer and the laptop or iPad or whatever, we go through this whole process. So what I realized is I've got to reduce the barriers to getting that Google review. So that was, the idea I thought is like, have a QR code on you got your name, and then this little QR code, we integrated our logo into it. Take a picture, take them straight to Google review. And now while they're cooling down on that new step, and we got 10 minutes to chat about how they're doing, the progress, update them on this and this and this, telling them what's next. I was a big believer in you always got to tell them what's next. What next week, we're going to work on this because they need to know the process. Yeah, but that's a great opportunity for them to pull out that phone, take a quick picture. Now they go straight to Google. And boom, there you go. And then I can explain to them how to write the perfect Google review. So
I love it. And that's just a simple concept, right? Of making it easy for the patient to leave that review. But you are so right in that we do want to get as many Google reviews as we can, but realize that not everybody has a Google account or Gmail account. And that's what you need in order to leave a review on Google. So sometimes you see that, especially more a lot of times for like senior citizens, they don't necessarily have a Gmail account. They might have an AOL account, right, or Yahoo account, something like that. But they usually have a Facebook account, right? And
one thing, Neil, we pushed a while back was written testimonials, and so I realized that I had a shotgun approach to testimonials, right? We were doing Google, and they're getting an email from us. They give your NPS score, and so what I found is that, a patient is super excited about their progress and their improvement, but they don't have to write like 5 different reviews on you, so we actually reduced the emphasis on the written testimonials because we would take those written testimonials they would do in the clinic, and it was usually our older population that maybe weren't so tech savvy, and they would write something down about how great everything is. We'd take a picture of it and put it on Facebook. And so there was some value to that. But I didn't feel like we could leverage that as well as like taking that extra step to get them into a Google review or Facebook review that it's going to be seen over and over, versus just a single posting. So,
yeah. And if you have those particular patients, you want to get ideally a review from every patient that's having a great experience with you. But let's face it, not everybody's going to have a Google account. So if you can't get that, most people have a Facebook account, so you can do a Facebook online review. And if they don't have that, then have a written testimonial, right? Because at least you can take that written testimonial and also use that in marketing materials. You can put it up on your website. You can send it out, postcards, direct mail, all kinds of different ways that you could, leverage those written testimonials if they're really, really good reviews there. So, uh, David, you also have two different locations here. So for you, like what's important to get reviews, for each of your locations, and why is that?
Well, our locations, it's rural Texas. We have, one town of 3,000, but I serve about a 30 mile it's a 3,000 town population town, but it's a 30-mile radius we serve. So it ends up being about 30,000 people in that, that area. And we actually pull out even further. We have people driving an hour to come see us sometimes. So it's a lot of people, but what I found at each location, between my Fairfield location, my Corsicana location, there's a different community for each. I mean, it's my original locations in Fairfield. It's much more. It's country. It's good old, farmers, ranchers. That's what I grew up. And so it's just a different little world. And 30 miles north toward Dallas is Corsicana, and it's a different kind of demographic, socioeconomic. There's different industry involved. And so what I realized, and I asked that same question because I didn't come up with that idea. Unfortunately, we had probably you guys helped us out a lot with, a lot of the setup on how we set up 2 accounts and all that. But it really has made a lot more sense to me as I understand it better, is like you're creating your own community. So that community of the Lot Physical Therapy Fairfield, it's got a different feel and vibe to it. And you're going to have different reviews that are going to appeal to that population more. So I think that's why it's so important to have that. And we're getting ready to start at Ennis location, which is about 20 miles north of Corsicana. So, and it's right outside of Dallas. So it'll be another different little PT world,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important that you create that identity for each clinic, with your reviews, and also, with how you market it as well, because if you're just doing the shotgun approach to every clinic and not taking into account the unique qualities of that clinic, you're going to miss some of the, hidden gems there.
Yeah, love that, because you really have to speak to your audience. And that's a great illustration when you do have multiple clinics, how they can be diverse, right? So in your situation, you have, rural farmer, and how are you going to market to a farming community, right? Versus a little bit, suburban kind of
Yeah,
community,
I mean,
right? It's going to be a little bit different, right?
our Fairfield review may be, before starting at lots, I wasn't able to change the shredder on my tractor and hook up my implement, or there might be some that really resonates with a lot of people in
Right.
demographic. And in the other realm, it might be, I haven't been able to go water skiing lately because, and so some people, because we have a big lake that
Mhm.
it's close to Corsicana that a lot of people will utilize. So fishing, water sports, all those kind of things, people are able to kind of like make their Google review focus on what they do. And so when you're looking at Google reviews and you'll see somebody that's like you that does what you do, well, then now it's more relevant. Now that makes more sense. And his net got better and he went to this place. So maybe that's going to help me get back into fishing on the boat or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And from a kind of a SEO and marketing perspective there, it's really important that you have obviously those Google business profiles for each clinic location, how the reviews are set up for each one of those. The imagery, the pictures are also critical there, because you might have, again, some different demographics for those particular clinic locations. So that's really key too. What a lot of people don't realize is that actually within the reviews themselves, the language, the keywords, Google does take that into consideration. So if you can, when you're asking patients for their review too, if they can mention the clinic name in there, if there's physical therapy, like Lot Physical Therapy. So when people are searching for physical therapy clinics, if there's a lot of reviews with the keyword physical therapy in it, or physical therapist, that is going to help you with those searches for those keywords too. So, or if there's maybe landmarks or things, or certain towns that those people might have come from, having them mention that. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can kind of manipulate the language in the reviews that are left, that can help you from the SEO perspective. So David, now I know that in your processes, you've worked a lot with the key component here, which I really think is an important part, which is when is the right time to ask for a review. Because again, one thing that I see sometimes is a bit of a mistake is that people purely rely on automation for asking for reviews. And
Right.
I see automation as a tool to help with this process and a little bit more of a backup, because asking for a review is a personal thing and it's that patient feedback that we want. And we don't want it to be necessarily so automated or cold. We want to have that relationship aspect to it. So can you please help our audience understand kind of what you've done there to when is that right time to ask for a review?
So that's a great question, and I think that there's a lot of subjectivity to that, and I think that's where you have the individual clinician that's kind of maybe their mindset's more honed into that part of thinking, because we have a lot of different personalities out there that are PTs, and some are so they have the ability that I don't have to hyper focus on a very, this person's here for their back, and I'm going to really, and so they don't like versus me, which is like I hear this and that, and I'm all over, and we might shift here, and I never do the same thing twice. And I'm always looking for different ways to approach it. So I'm always listening a little differently. But um, I think the right time is when you hear. So I usually start my treatments with, "Are you getting better?" I found that that's kind of my favorite question at the moment. I just changed this a lot, but it's much better than how are you feeling? That's such a ambiguous statement. It can be related to emotions and all. So I'm like, are you getting better? Because if you're getting better, I don't have to point out like, is your neck getting better? Is your back getting like, what I'm talking about? And I feel like that really kind of opens the door for me with that patient. And when they're excited about when I hear the when if there's a pause, they're not getting better because patients want to make us feel good about what we do. They appreciate the time we spend. It's like a unique experience. They don't get any other healthcare experience because we don't rush them. My treatment sessions are 40 minutes. We do one-on-one visits. We only have 12 visits a day. So we spend a lot of time with the patients. So they're just to have that attention it's really unique for them. So their tendency is a lot of times to not really give you honest feedback. I've found. I don't know if you've found that, but
Yeah.
so I want that. And so we have to kind of create that safe space to where like, hey, I really want to know that, are you getting better? Yeah, man, I am so much better. So when I kind of hear that excitement, I'm going to ask that I've created a training tool for my providers on what questions to kind of ask. And it's not that they have a protocol to ask questions, but just like what to consider, so what specifically is getting better, or what treatment did you do last time that really made you feel better? Because it's always amazing when you ask those type of questions, because patients really, they know a lot more than we give them credit for. Like, well, last time they did the this and this and this, and that really helped me. So I can really fine tune the process of like, why are they getting better? And then what I'll kind of lead them through is like, well, did you ever think that you get better with physical therapy? Oh gosh, no. And I maybe remind them of the past experience. Like, so what did you do before physical therapy? Well, I tried the injections and I did this and this. So I'm kind of building that I'm helping them remember like where they came from. I know this is a long answer, by the way, Neil. I warned you of this
Perfect. Keep going.
on a tangent.
Great stuff.
But I think what we have to remind them of how far they've come. And then, but that I feel like when you find that patient that's really excited about it, obviously that's a person that we need to get that right now. Because what we tend to do is like, we kind of dismiss that. Oh, that's great. Now, hey, let's go work on your scapular stabilization or whatever. So we lose that moment. And that's kind of where I came up with the concept of the QR code, because I wanted it to be something real quick we could do.
Right.
Or at least I'll make a mental note at the end of that treatment when I have a little more time, where maybe they're doing something that doesn't require them actually moving, that they can have that. So I'm going to kind of lead them down that path. I think what I found too is usually about midpoint of their treatment sessions. So like their episode, usually after about 2 to 3 or 4 visits, I'd say more 3 or 4, 5 visits. They've had enough of good stuff that we've given them, if we've done the right stuff, that they're really now understanding, man, my neck is not hurting me all the time. So find that time that they're really seeing the greatest change. And what I found, if you wait till the end, even though they had this incredible experience and they're super excited about it, the improvement that they made is kind of diminished because they're used to it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was so much better, man. At week 2 or 3, I came in, I couldn't even turn my neck. Now I'm doing all this. Now it's week 3 or 4. I've been doing this for 2 weeks. I'm kind of accepted. That's okay. I don't remember I couldn't do that before. So you have to kind of find that moment when they're really excited about it, and usually it's about midpoint in the session. I find also during the progress notes, reevals, when you have that time to sit down with them, you go through objective measures, and we can kind of remind them. I like to do a lot of biofeedback and a lot of stuff. We do video gait analysis and things. Like I want them to visually see this was you 2 weeks ago. This is you now, because we don't see our bodies move. And so we don't always appreciate the improvement. So we kind of have to help them see how great they're doing sometimes, you know?
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's such a critical thing for our audience to understand, especially when they're explaining to their team, right? When they want them to ask for a review. But I really love the way that you've made it a protocol and like kind of almost scripts, right? That really helps empower the therapists to know everybody to be on the same page, right? Here's how we guide people to the questions that we like to move through, and they're general questions, but it makes so much sense, right? And they all kind of fall in the same category of helping the patient understand the transformation that they've had so far, right? And I think from what you're saying here, the right time to ask for review is when you have maximum change and maximum excitement, and that doesn't necessarily happen at the end. That happens more in that midway point.
And that they may not. I think sometimes we get caught up in waiting for that, like because we have different personalities. There's some very interesting personalities. I always kind of use the engineer type person, the brain that's like very analytical, and like they don't get too excited about a lot of stuff. They're very focused. But those are the ones that usually you take them through that progress report, or you show them some objective data changes, that now they're excited. Wow, I gained 10 degrees of extension in my knee. That's incredible. So you can't just wait for that, because if you wait for everybody to be like, oh my God, you're the greatest in the world, there's enough of those people out there. You got to leverage that.
Yeah.
But you got to also be specific and discerning, and like asking, helping them see, not just for a Google review, but just generally helping them progress and stay motivated and engage in their therapy. So, that's where I always kind of like, we got to point out how far you've come from, and then what's next, and what phase of rehab are we in. I usually think of rehab as, for the most patients I see, is like pain, movement, strength. There's 3 phases. I kind of explain. You came in pain phase. We are focused on getting that pain under control. Now the pain is not your predominant symptom. We're in movement phase now. So now we're restoring your mobility. And here's how we know that we've accomplished that goal: pain-free end range with overpressure, whatever it may be. Help them really understand that. Next is strength. Because otherwise you have a patient that comes in, that's the rancher that's like, I don't have time for this in the first place. And why aren't we doing exercises? I want to do that machine over there. And you got to be able to help them understand where they are in the recovery. And when they get that, like, now they're excited about it, and they get, okay, that makes sense. So, and that's the same with the Google reviews. Like it's one thing to say, well, get Google reviews. I can tell my staff that, but they'll say, well, lot physical therapy is great. Well, that's good. I'm glad. I appreciate that 5-star. But like you mentioned with the SEO stuff, I want a story. I want you to tell me how it happened. What's going on? Mention your vertigo that's improved dramatically in that lot physical therapy, and but if we don't take that time to help them, guide them down that process, we're not going to get that really effective Google review that's going to help others get help too.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So David, like, what do you find helps your staff get the ideal review?
And I think that kind of goes back to number one, understanding why are the reviews important. So they get the purpose behind it, which is to help others know that, help others come to us so we can help them. So the messaging there, but I and this is something recently I've understood better, and I'm really trying to incorporate that slowly. I don't want to just throw a bunch of new stuff at all my PTs, because they're used to that from me, but I've learned to, let's focus on this quarter. We'll focus on this quarter. But when I do talk to them, I kind of talk about, and I just did this recently, about Google review, or just reviews in general, but the quality of that review, and not just focusing on numbers and ratings, but what's the quality of it, and does when you read this review, does it make you really understand without a doubt that physical therapy can help your neck pain or shoulder pain or back pain. So I've got it, and I do have a series of questions, and it basically is kind of what I mentioned about, finding that opportunity when they're excited, when there's been the greatest change noted, remind them of the change, help them understand the purpose of this review and what's the goal. It's not about lot physical therapy. It's about promoting physical therapy in general and helping us, help more people. So that kind of takes away that uncomfortableness of it,
Right.
because it's uncomfortable for people to ask that, and I get that, but I try to remind them it shouldn't be uncomfortable. You care about people. Like, PTs want to help others. How do we help more people? We can't help them if they don't come in the door. So we all market. Everybody in there is a marketer. And that's kind of like, it's like sales. We think about sales people as like, I'm not everybody thinks like that, but I think some people think, well, sales is, we're in sales. We're selling health. I mean, we're trying to promote how to help people. So getting past that negative thinking behind it by helping them really focus on the purpose of it really makes that less uncomfortable. And then lastly, just making sure that the patient understands, how to give. I would say, I usually give an example. I'm saying, Neil, just tell me what the biggest improvement is, because most people out there don't know what we do and how we can help. So give me 4 to 5 sentences or so. And I said, don't feel like you have to do it abbreviated, but just give me a good, write it down. So I guess that's
yeah, because the reviews, powerful reviews, like the ones that really convince other people to come in, are the ones that are transformational, that are in a story format too. And so I love what you've done there, which is to really help the patients understand what is the best type of review to leave for you and what's the purpose behind it. Because let's face it, our patients they want to give back, right? And we see that all the time. Like, gosh, I mean, people bring in cookies and cakes and all kinds of stuff for you, right? Because they really appreciate what you've done for them. And they don't really understand or know that leaving a review for you is super powerful. And if it's done in a certain format, it can be really powerful. And so I love what you've done there in helping the patient to understand, hey, here's what we're doing. It's not just for us, it's to help other people. They really want to get behind that, right? And so they're going to put more effort into that review. They're going to leave a more detailed review, a transformational review. And I always used to, train my therapist to say, what can you do now that you couldn't do before? Yeah. And so that helps them think with, oh, I need to talk about where I was and how bad it was, and then where I am now and how good it's gotten by coming here. Go ahead, David.
And one other thing I was going to say on that is, it sounds bad. You're training your patients how to get a good review, but in a sense we're offering the right format so they can be the most effective. But one of the other ways we do this is in our waiting rooms. We have big TVs, flat screens that have slideshows, and it has, our employees and any cool stuff we do. We try to put personal pictures in there, and because most people don't wait. I mean, when they get there, we get them started immediately, but there's some times that they may wait a little bit, or maybe they get early. But we kind of filter in the best Google reviews in that slideshow that are lengthy, long, specific. Like, this is the idea. So they're reading that, and that becomes like what a Google review is. So that kind of has helped us not have to, make it like this assignment. Like, okay, Neil, here's the deal. I want you to sit down and get your piece of paper and your pencil, and you're going to write 5 sentences. It's like, it's not an assignment. It's like, they're going to read these great Google reviews. They pop up in our PT gym. All our, we have fitness centers also associated with our gym. So I have TVs everywhere, and a lot of them have, regular TV stuff on it. But in the treatment areas, it's all slideshows, and it's just showing stuff that we do, treatments, the services we provide, that we treat necks, we treat backs, we treat vertigo. And so it's a marketing strategy there, but also lacing in great Google reviews and help people understand why Google reviews are important. But not only that, but like, what's a good Google review look like? So I think that's been helpful.
That is awesome. I mean, sometimes we just think of Google reviews as just being the review that someone else is going to see online, right? When they're doing a search. But I love what you've done there and really used it as a tool within the clinic, right? So you have all these amazing reviews. Yeah, you should be showing them off, right? And I love that you have it on TVs, like in the waiting room, treatment areas, those kind of areas, because people, let's face it, people do wait, in between different things that we're doing for them, or maybe they're, sitting on eSTEM and they're got 15 minutes to kill, and they're watching, a screen, and they see these reviews coming up. And there's a couple different things there. One is they're thinking, hey, that person came in for a knee. I didn't realize these guys treated knees.
Right.
Right. Oh, yeah, my husband's got that knee problem. So it gets them thinking that direction, so that can stimulate referrals. The other part too is, I think, reassurance. So let's face it. I mean, patient drop off is a big problem for all clinics. And when the patient has their own doubts, but they're afraid to voice those doubts of if they're getting better or if they don't feel they're making progress, if they're able to see those reviews within the clinic, it's a little bit of reassurance for them that,
there's
hey,
hope.
you know what, there's hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you've done there. That's fantastic. So that's obviously some, kind of mechanisms and ways that you're using the reviews. What other clinic systems have you found helpful for you to work on generating reviews?
So I would say that, we use a system that sends out follow-up or onboarding emails, right? So you come in for an eval, and it's systematically, programmed to come where, like, on that day after you come in for your eval, how was your visit? And I try to update the wording on that email to make it more relevant. That's always the hardest challenge for me, because I can always change stuff. I mean, I'm constantly wanting to improve it, and I have to find okay, this is it. It's simple. But I find that those are really helpful, and those are their NPS scores, right? So with that, I really had to help our providers understand how important these are, because they get sent to each provider. I get all of them, so I know what everything, everybody's, and I get like 30 a day. I mean, it's like you'll just have promoter, and then there'll be out one detractor every now and then. And of course, that's the one I open up. And I've had kind of worked on trying to create that urgency with patient. Like, when I see a negative, it hurts me, like physically. I feel pain almost. It's like, I don't know why it's important to me, but I want all my other providers to understand, like, that person didn't have we failed that patient. And what I found in the past, I think I'm going off on another tangent here, but what I found in the past is, like, people, the providers, PTs, including myself, when you read that, you're kind of like built in to make excuses. Well, their insurance is bad, or whatever. So I think it's important that we follow up on those. And so we have a system I can talk about later, about how we do that to make sure that we're following up on those negatives as well, but also, again, thinking the positives. But that system of the emails going out, net promoters, and then what happens is, if you get a 10 on that, and it's got this little glowing review, then you're going to get the follow-up email that's going to say, hey, would you mind reviewing us on Google? And it explains how important that is. And so I feel like that's been huge, for us. That's really helped, that automation there, of getting those. So that's been a big thing. I'm trying to think of other systems. I think that's the main one as far as the automated approach to it. I think that's.
Yeah. And so are there some other type of processes or things that you've done internally?
Well, other than like so our dashboard in the lounge, I think has been something I've started in the last few months or a year, maybe. I don't know. It's been a while, but of just reminding, it's kind of like it becomes an internal competition. I think in the past, and I mean, in the past, I had competitions. We had, like, who could get the most Google reviews. And I feel like that, in retrospect, became a task-oriented approach. And we lost the purpose, and we didn't get we got good Google numbers, the fives and stuff you want, but I mean, the content wasn't there. So that's why I've had to kind of refine that, and let's revisit this. Like, why is this important? So I think the dashboard, that awareness of, hey, we got 5 new Google reviews this week, and everybody gets excited now. And if it stays current in their mind, they're going to be more active in pursuing them. So
yeah. So you had this kind of shift overall in like how you approached and got reviews, and you have an enormous amount of reviews. What's the impact of that been in your clinic?
I think, well, one thing is it helps us review what's working and what's not. We've been able to really get some good information. Like, I always kind of focus. We get so many positives. I tend to kind of take those for granted sometimes, and that's easy to do. So that's why we really push for make sure we say thank you, and really thank you, Neil, for that great Google review. because patients love to hear that. Like they took some time out of their day to fill this out. So it's great to appreciate. But those negatives are really, I think we learn a lot from those. So what we have PT operation meetings once a week. My managers get together and we talk about any negative reviews that pop up, NPS stuff. And then we make sure they assign the evaluating PT either on that next visit is going to discuss this with you, or they're going to call you if you're not coming anymore. And again, create that safe space, your crucial conversations thing, and make sure this is not I really appreciate you giving us feedback. I see we failed in exceeding expectations for you. I'd really like to know more about what happened. Because sometimes when people write a Google review, you're either going to have the people that don't write anything or they write a whole bunch of stuff, right? So, it's not a problem with the negative reviews sometimes getting that length because they're frustrated. And 80% of the time it's an office situation, and it's not the office people's fault. It's just we didn't do a very good job of communicating the why behind your 50-page paperwork that you have to fill out, or our cancellation no-show policy. So I think we've learned a lot about how to really turn that detractor into a promoter. And that's been a really cool thing, to be able to have somebody that maybe gave us a 6 or a 5, and they're frustrated because of this, and this. And when we talk to them and say, Neil, I noticed, I said, we didn't exceed your expectations. I see that. So what could we have done better? Or really what led to your frustration? And it's like, you'll get, well, my doctor didn't send a note. And sometimes it's things that didn't have it wasn't even in our wheelhouse of treatment. It's usually like their physician didn't do his job. So they just kind of loop healthcare together and think we all talk to each other all day. Mm-hmm. And so we're able to not make excuses. So we own it. That's important. But we also kind of help them, and you provide that empathetic ear. A lot of times patients that are frustrated they're just having a bad day. They don't feel good. They're in pain. I tell my office that all the time when they say so-and-so, that next patient's going to be kind of tough. I said, well, maybe their life's not great right now because they're having back pain. They're not working. We kind of remind them all the things going on. So I think that empathetic ear can help turn that patient into seeing it in a more positive light.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And just on a little bit of a different topic here, I know that in your practices, you actually have a fitness center that's also part of your practice. And I'm just kind of curious from your side, how's that, been for your business?
It's really been, as far as a fitness center as a money generator, it's hard to really, it's not a big gain there. It's helpful. It kind of offsets some of your staffing and your building costs. But what the biggest gain has been is having them stay in the circle. They're in the circle. I come in, you evaluate Neil, your neck is better. We're going to get you transitioned to our fitness center. We're going to integrate some of the workouts on the other side. We have a big glass wall between the PT gym and the fitness center. So people can always see the fitness center, and the fitness center people can always see the PT. So it's like these two worlds that see each other and they're interested, like what's going on that side of the wall? Like, that looks pretty cool. They're working on a machine right there I've never seen. So the fitness center members will ask about, like, hey, I want to, and I'm like, hey, we have in Texas, we have a very limited direct access, but I don't have that hoop I have to jump through anymore. So that's been a game changer for us, because I can get that person set up for an eval, come in. Same thing on the PT side. You have someone who's never worked out in their life. They really see the benefit of how movement has helped them. We've educated them to death, probably with too much education, but we're always explaining, the purpose behind everything and why you're doing this exercise. But they get better, and then we're reminding them. And I tell patients, I'm going to brainwash you into realizing that you have to exercise the rest of your life. So we create a really easy transition, and we make sure that we write programs for them. We create a folder for them. We have a printout of all the machines. We make it as simple as possible so that they can transition from that PT person to now they're in the fitness center. And I found, particularly in my senior population, like that's probably the biggest percentage of members I have. Is because they're not working, they're retired. They see the value of health more than anybody now. And they appreciate when they feel better. And if you go to either one of my clinic or my fitness centers at about 5 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be full of ranchers and farmers wearing overalls. They're in there working out, they're doing a little warm-up stuff, and then they go to work, they'll go shred in their pasture or something like that. And that is the coolest thing to me. So it's really, I never really thought of it. I'm not a business person by training by any means. I never even thought about that. So it wasn't ever like this, wow, that's a good way to leverage more cash-based pay and stuff like that. It was just like, it just made sense to me because after the first year or two as being a PT, I would see these people with back pain and we treat them and they do better. And well, 6 months later, a year later, they're back with the same thing. And I'm like, what the heck? I gave you some exercise to do at home. You didn't do them. Of course they didn't do them. No one's going to do those for long term because I got better, right?
Yeah.
So we found a better way to do that, and that's transition to the fitness center and keep them engaged. And then we really can market that population in the fitness center to realize that they can come back. So that's where we're kind of getting a lot of our reactivated patients from.
Yeah, that's super smart because it is. I think in therapy we have that opportunity for that long term relationship, with the patient, and
And we
we
don't take
know that.
advantage of it, right?
Yeah, and we know how important the continuous exercise is for those patients, but if we sometimes we rely on just saying, hey, they're going to go to a local fitness center without much guidance, and that can be very, very tough on them. So they don't really follow through on that, and then they're back in again. But I love that, you realize like, hey, it's not a big profit center, but it is a very good referral machine, right?
Yeah.
Back and forth, right? And I think that's a great way to, approach those ancillary type services that we can add on to our practices.
And I think it also helps us become the driving force in their healthcare, because I think that's where in our current healthcare system, particularly where we are, more rural area, like no one owns healthcare as much anymore. You don't have the family practice, there's not the family doctor you go to that's known you since you're a kid and has your best interest at heart, is going to spend time with you and going to, that's not really, you go to urgent care, you're in there about 5 or 10 minutes. They're going to give you the medicine you need. And they're going to send you to about 3 different places to go get more imaging. And it's just like patients are lost. They don't know who's my leader. And so that's what I try to encourage my PTs. Like we have got to be their leader. We've got to guide them in the conditions that we treat. And PTs treat a lot of stuff. I mean, we treat, vertigo, balance, dizziness, back pain, neck pain, chronic pain, sensory integration issues. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that we can help people with that they don't really know, but keeping them in our little world of fitness center and all that, they get comfortable in our environment. They know how they come in for consults. So it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. Now, I know that we've been working with you for a long time here, and our team loves working with you. Just kind of curious from your perspective, how has it been from your experience working with practice promotions?
I'll tell you this story. In preparing for this, I was kind of thinking of some of the questions you might ask, but I'll be really honest. It's kind of funny, but it's a good ending. But so in the last year or two, I've taken more admin role. I've kind of out of the clinic more, so I've kind of taken ownership of the marketing, paid recruitment of new hires and that kind of stuff. And so when I got into marketing, I'm like, hey, I know marketing. I got all these ideas. They're all great and everything works. And I realized that's not the case, as I've kind of told you with my ideas of billboards in the past, of having all our PTs up there with their credentials, and everybody's going to go, oh my God, he's an orthopedic clinical specialist. I've got to go to him. No one knows that. So we have a few different marketing initiatives. You guys help us a lot. I've got a local marketing consultant that kind of helps be our boots on the ground type approach. And so in taking on the marketing role, I looked at all the costs, and we're spending money on this and this and this, and we're doing this, and I'm like, I need to find out more about practice promotion. So I sit in on one of your quarterly meetings, with a couple. I can't think of their names right now, unfortunately. But they, I was very impressed of like the quarterly review, like breaking up. I didn't know what an SEO stood. I didn't know what that meant. But they explained all that stuff to me, and they really showed me the metrics that they look at, our impact on Google, our hits that we're getting on our website. I was really impressed with all the information. And it kind of really brought kind of everything into full circle, as far as like the whole plan of like, because marketing is such a big word, it's just it encapsulates a lot of things, but to really have that direct approach, and then to be able to kind of see how that, your digital newsletters that we use through you guys and all that stuff, how it can be impacted in the clicks that we're getting and the reactivated patients. So I love the stats. I love the metrics. I'm not a metrics person typically, but it is really interesting to see that continual growth and improvement. So I've been very impressed, especially on how the feedback's quick. I think we use Basecamp, so I'm always getting little updates on this and improving this or that, and I have somebody that helps me with that. But it's really interesting. It's really been neat to see how involved it is. So it's been great.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate that. And so, what would you say has been your number one win with practice promotions?
Um, there's several, so it's hard to narrow down one. I tell you, for me personally, it's good to be able to talk to your crew and throw out all my crazy ideas, and then them to be able to really give me some honest feedback on, well, we could do that, but this, and they'll explain to me a better way of doing it. Or, if I have, like, I started these things called PT wellness exams, which are really PT evaluations designed more for 65 and up. That's got functional tests, and it's kind of like a physical agility test for seniors. And I really talked to your crew about, well, how can I best market this? And they gave me a great approach on how to do it and some different social media postings. But really guiding that, kind of having the big idea and then have them be able to kind of fine tune and get the message out. The other thing is on recruiting too. We've really been growing a lot, so we're trying to hire as many as we can. And one of the big wins was developing. I did personally like thinking postcards don't work. Who looks at postcards? I get them all the time. But you guys were able to develop a really good postcard that for recruitment that kind of helps tell our story, who we are, and makes it interesting. And we've had some good results with that. So
awesome. Love to hear it. I'm kind of curious from your side, have you tried reviews from the staff from like Indeed and on Glassdoor and those kind of places?
no, I just kind of recently became aware of that. And I think that's something I've got that on the list of things I want to look into. But I definitely, Glassdoor, I'm familiar with it. And then Indeed, I know it, but I think that's something, those are important that we get our employees reviewing us as well, because
Yeah.
from a different perspective of, like, we kind of focus on reviews for consumers, but especially in a rural area, it's been one of my greatest challenges is, like, I can have we got a lot of patients. I mean, waiting lists to try to people to get in. It's just a matter of getting the professional staff to small rural Texas is not always easy. So I think I can
Yeah.
see the value in really doing that, because I think it'll work just like with the patients,
It
patient
does.
generation.
Yeah. That's
Employees
one
are
thing
interested
that
too.
for us at practice promotions, I mean, we're over 90 people in terms of our staff. So again, it's always a lot of recruiting that we have to go through. So just like in the practice world, right, in therapy and everything, um, you need to market. You need to market who you are. You need to market your business. And just like for new patients coming in, the Google reviews, we find that helps a lot for clinics too when they do that, because other clinicians in the area, when they're kind of evaluating other jobs, they're going to look at your Google reviews for one. But then if you type in the name of, say, your practice, what you would see if you have reviews on Indeed, for example, and reviews on Glassdoor, is you will see your usual website up there at the top, but then you'll see those other directories that your business information is on. So if you build out your Indeed profile, build out your Glassdoor profile with reviews from your staff, those reviews will actually show up on just a regular search for example, like Lot Physical Therapy. So it's just another point of where people who are evaluating you for a potential job without even reaching out to you yet, they're going to look at your Google reviews, they're going to look at those Indeed reviews, and it does help a lot with recruiting. So
No, I can see that it would. I mean, I think that is what I've found in my experience, is that when you have a great place for people to work, a 20-30 minute drive is not a big deal. Most of my providers and my office staff, they probably have a 20 or 30-minute drive. And so it really, especially in today's age, you're really able to open up a big area that you can recruit from. And having those kind of reviews help somebody who's kind of in between these few clinics that they're kind of interested in. I can see that could be the game changer for it. I mean, like on the postcard that you guys developed for me, what we did is I had some of my newer hires do a video testimonial of like why they like working at lots. And so what we did is we did my QR codes. We did a QR code on the postcard that says, hear what our employees have to say about us. And it had, a picture of one of our newest grads. So they were able to click that. And we have several 2 to 3 minute videos of like why they enjoy working at, what our core values are, the support that they get from the ownership, all that kind of stuff. So it kind of gives you a little sneak peek into behind the scenes. And I think if done right, then it, and sincere, then it's like a really legit way of going, oh, these guys are different, maybe,
Yeah, definitely. So David, we've got a lot of amazing stuff here today. You've shared some wonderful tips. Any final words of advice for our audience?
I think a big thing for me is just always ask why. Like when we start any new initiatives, like I'm again being an ideal person and like coming up with a million like nonstop new ideas. I prioritize them by asking me, is this going to move the needle? What needle are we moving? Or what are we trying to generate with this? And then why are we doing it? And then also, I think when you're particularly, like if we're talking specific about whether it's Google reviews or whatever, is really doing a better job about, sitting down with your staff and helping them understand how this is going to help them, how it's going to improve their quality of life or whatever, or how we're going to help others. And not, so it takes a little extra time to do that. But I think when you do that, it's not a task anymore. It's a valuable, and I really relate a lot of it to like, it's interesting, like all this marketing stuff. I think about like I've been training for marketing for 25 years every day in the clinic with the patient, because what do you do with a patient on that very first day? You're selling your services, right? So if you're good at that, you're going to have really happy patients and you're going to do well. And we've done well. And so I think number one, you got to have a good clinic. The Google reviews, there's a lot of strategies on getting good Google reviews, but if you don't have a good product that's consistent every day, and we're doing what we say we're going to do, and we're focused on exceeding expectations, then it's going to be hard to really get Google reviews. So I think the clinics that maybe struggle in that area, they're always going to struggle. Yeah. So we got to clean that up first, but then get your messaging down where you have a group of people that work for you that really are in line with what the purpose is, and they're excited about it. So that would be my probably things I've done that, and I learned that from doing it the wrong way. So.
Well, David, thank you so much for all your great advice there. Tons of different things here, but kind of refocus here on go work on getting reviews out there and re-listen to this podcast here. There's some great tips from David, what's been very successful for him. So we look forward to hearing from how people are using that out there. And don't forget to check out our other podcast episodes, all kinds of different marketing tips and tactics that we're going over there from different practice owners around the country. So thanks, David, for being on the call here. And to our audience, wishing everybody much success in your practice.
Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining us today. Be sure to check out practicepromotions.net/power. There, listeners can download over 9 checklists and free resources made to coach you through simple, proven marketing actions to increase new patients. So check it out today. That's practicepromotions.net/power, and I'll see you next time.